You can connect to my hotspot if you like.
Where's her other brothers?
Yeah, Musala.
Where,
So
what is
remember the
it
brother
called?
with the red thing? Yeah.
Who, Noble?
I don't know his name.
His internet is Galaxy Z Flip 4 and he's something on it.
And the password is?
I don't know.
Assalamu alaikum. So you need to get your own table because the sisters took all the tables. You can sit right there and share a table with me.
Just on the box.
Oh, I don't know what the type of password is. Hold on. It's zip at 4630. Zip,
Oh, I see.
ZIP at 4630. All right, class. Well, did you pray the first Jummah here or the second?
First one.
Who gave the first khutbah?
Same group.
The Imam? So he gave both?
What's that? Because they had the Janazah right after that.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to go to the second one, but
I went to the second one.
You went to the Janazah too?
Yeah, I prayed the Janazah. I didn't go to the graveyard, but I prayed the Janazah.
I should have.
But I don't understand how he led both prayers.
Malik made the same comment.
You can't do that?
I don't think you can, but oh well.
Yeah. Have you prayed it? You both in masjid and then for the Janazah.
All right, we're live. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ba'd. We will start with surah number, what surah number are we in? What is it, 103? No, it's not 103. It's in the, no, it's 102, the Kathir, right? Everybody have it? Please help them. Please help everybody if they don't have it, please.
Oh, okay. Anybody have Elise's phone number?
I did.
She went for classes and nobody found her classes.
All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-Hakum al-Takathur.
Is that 126? No, what did you say?
102, surah number 102.
Mhm.
Right, got it?
Yep.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-Hakum al-Takathur. Competition in worldly in worldly gains, in worldly increase diverts you. Hatta zurtumul maqabir, until you visit the graveyards. So what's being said here is that the way we live our lives is being criticized because we live our lives in constant struggle for this dunya, struggle for this world, struggling to make more money, to get more cars, to get this and get that, and collect this dunya, and we forget about our akhirah, we forget about the day of judgment and our afterlife until we see the graveyard, until we die. It comes to us suddenly, and now we don't have any time to do anything. And now we're shocked, and we're remorseful. Do you have it, sister? And then we're shocked and we're remorseful at that time because we didn't spend our time wisely. And this is why it's important that even with everything going on, we have to make sure that we're giving our proper time to our acts of worship. And we're taking time out to study. We're taking time out to learn the deen and make sure we're learning it properly so that we can practice it better. And the reason behind this class and any other classes you're attending or any other studies you're doing is to learn this deen, learn this religion so you can get closer to Allah. So you can worship Him better and worship Him more and encourage yourself to worship. Because we don't want to be in that situation where death overtakes us suddenly, and then we're regretful that I wasn't able to do this, I wasn't able to do this, and I wasn't able to do this. So he says, "Alhaakum التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, you are going to know. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون. Then no, you are going to know. So this in Arabic, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala repeats himself, it's to call our attention to it and to emphasize the importance of what he's saying. And he's saying that very soon you will know. You will know the reality of this dunya, and you will know the reality of the afterlife. You'll know everything. As soon as you die, and you'll know everything. You'll remember everything. You'll have clarity in your thinking, and you won't be confused anymore. And that's either good or that's bad. And that's up to us to make the most out of this life and make sure that we're not in a bad position. But he repeats it to emphasize that we will know. كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين. No, if you knew with knowledge of certainty, that you will know with the knowledge of certainty. Not just right now we hear the descriptions of the afterlife, and some people, may Allah guide them, they don't believe it, right? Or some people, even Muslims, you'll say, well, these descriptions are allegorical, they're not real. Or we believe it, but we don't really think about it too much. But we will know about it with certainty once we see it. And there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said that if you knew what I know, that you would laugh very little, because he was shown, some parts of what heaven will be like. He was shown some parts of what hellfire will be like. He was shown people who were being punished in the hellfire. And he said, if you knew what I knew, that you would laugh very little, and you would cry a lot, and you would forget the pleasure of being in bed with your wife. Like, you would even forget that. Like, nothing in this world would please you anymore. That's how heavy the thoughts of the afterlife are. And this is part of the mercy of Allah, that He didn't show it to us. Otherwise, we'd all be sitting here depressed. But we should also take it seriously. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, that when the time comes and we see it, we'll see it with certainty. And we'll know it with certainty. لَتَرَوُنَّ الْجَحِيمِ. And surely you will see the hellfire. ثُمَّ لَتَرَوُنَّهَا عَيْنَ الْيَقِينِ. And then you will surely see it with the eyes of certainty. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. And then you will surely be asked on that day about the na'im, about pleasure, about the blessings of this dunya, or about whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. So out of the things Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us are in His blessings is time. He's given us these lives, and we have a choice of how to spend our time, whether we spend them in the path of Allah, obeying Him and doing good, or we waste it. And like he mentioned in the beginning, that people just day and night running after this dunya and not being mindful of what they need to do in the religion. And He's given us health. Alhamdulillah, we're healthy and you're not sick. So are we using our strength and energy in the path of Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us wealth. Are we using that in the path of Allah? Are we using that in haram? So all of these things are the blessings and the pleasures and the benefits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us that we'll be asked about. So when we think about, if you, when you go to an accountant, right, you have to answer a lot of questions. Okay, where did you spend this? Where did you spend that? Where did you spend this, right? And think about what we'll have to give account in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, I gave you this amount of money. What did you do with it? So I wasted it here. I wasted it there. I did this. I did that. And what are we going to say? So this surah, like the other surahs near the end of the Quran, focus on the recalibrating ourselves to think more about the afterlife. And you'll see this in the succession of surahs, the ones we've already gone through and the ones we'll be going through, in coming weeks, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to recalibrate ourselves, to put priorities right, that this afterlife is something real that we have to think about, we have to prepare for. And the reality of this dunya is it's nothing. We just had a brother pass away today. Whatever he had in this dunya is still here. It's not his. All he has is his good deeds. And that's the truth with all of us. Whatever we have in this dunya, we have nice cars, we have houses. The moment we die, it's somebody else's. It's not for us anymore. So what are we struggling so hard for it for? All we have left is our good deeds. What is our deeds, good and bad? Right? The only thing that will benefit us are our good deeds. So we should spend more of our life struggling for that rather than just running after this dunya. And this is why we have to start prioritizing what we want. Right? If I have a small car and it runs, great. Let me be happy with that instead of having to work overtime and get a second job and a third job just to get a nicer car. Or, just overexerting ourselves because we want stuff. Instead of, putting all these wants, why do we think about our needs, and our needs are for good deeds. The one narration that I think I've mentioned here before is some of the companions, when the teachings about giving sadaqah and giving charity were being taught, and they didn't have much. They were poor. So they said, we used to go to the markets and work as laborers just so we could get some money so we could give sadaqah too. They weren't getting money just so they could, build a house or, get something nice or anything. No. Their concept was, we want to get money so we can give sadaqah, so we can get good deeds. And we're kind of thinking the whole opposite way. We're doing this backwards, where our whole thought is about the dunya, about pleasing ourselves, and then we might take a little bit out to give sadaqah sometimes. No, we're doing this backwards. So when we read these surahs, we have to think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us here. And what he's teaching us here is that our effort, our struggle should be for him. And that if we face losses in this dunya, we have to sacrifice this dunya, then that's fine, because it's not worth anything anyways. In one hadith, Rasulullah said that if this dunya had the value of a mosquito or a mosquito's wing, if it was even that valuable in the sight of Allah, then he wouldn't give anything, any risk to a kafir. But he gives them risk because it's because this world is meaningless. One time Rasulullah was walking by an area with the Sahaba, and he saw like a dead goat, and it was rotting. And he picked it up by the ear. He said, "Who would buy this for 1 dinar?" And the companion said, that thing is rotting. We wouldn't even buy it. We wouldn't take it if you give it for free. He said, this is what this dunya is, the value of this dunya. It's like this rotting corpse. It's nothing. So we have been deluded by shaitan, by the devil, into thinking that this dunya is everything because it's what's immediately in front of us. But we have to struggle and concentrate and focus on our akhirah and making sure that that's correct, and making sure that our deeds are good enough, are plentiful, so that we can be shown Allah's mercy. All right. Any questions about surah number 102? Questions?
When you're saying the Arabic word, can you also say the English word, like for akhirah, means the afterlife, and like that?
Remind me if I don't. I try to, but remind me if I don't.
Can you define risk?
Risk is your wealth or whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you. Rizq can be like food, it can be money. It's whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you that we use in this world is a risk.
Can you put a list of deeds that are not done with hand, but done within the heart and the mind that we could use?
There's many deeds that are actions of the heart and actions of the mind. For example, believing in Allah, fearing Allah, loving Allah, loving Allah's messenger. These are all. Do you want to close the door? Just holler at these kids, Noble, and tell them to be quiet. Oh, she got it. Okay, they're probably more scared of her. So these are actions of the heart, having faith and these things. Also, like different supplications you can make. Not necessarily actions of the limb, but they're actions of the tongue and the mind. Being mindful of Allah, having khushu, which means fear of Allah, and His awareness of Him, so that when we're praying or making wudu, we're thinking about that this is an act of worship in front of Allah and not just doing calisthenics. Because that's what it's become for a lot of us, that we're just moving, but we're not thinking, we're not praying. We're praying physically, but we're not there emotionally, we're not there mentally, we're not there with our minds, we're just going through the motions. And that's something that we should focus on. But these are all actions of the heart, inshallah. But yeah, the actions of the heart are important because they beautify and they lead us to do actions on our limbs. Having sincerity is another one. Making sure that whatever you're doing, you're intending it only for the sake of Allah. A lot of times we get frustrated when we do things for people and we don't see the result. I was frustrated yesterday and last week because we didn't have people in class. But if I'm doing this for the sake of Allah, even if there's one person, then I'm good. And sometimes we do the same, like we do things for our kids, or we do things for our family members, and nobody says thank you, or nobody appreciates it. But if you're doing it for the sake of Allah, then it doesn't matter if they appreciate it or not. Yeah, that's nice, and we should appreciate each other, and that's politeness, and it's good manners. But we should, if we focus our attention on doing things for the sake of Allah, then these things become meaningless to us. Any other questions? All right, let's get into the book. Where are we in the book? I think we have a quiz today too, right? Brother Noble, do you have your book?
Yes.
Bruh.
I do have a book. Is that it?
I've given everybody
It's in the
a
car.
proper book.
And it's in the car.
It's also in that red box. It's right next to you.
Oh, thank you.
If anybody needs a book, they're in the red box.
Anybody else need a book?
Sure.
Say yes.
Hand me one too, please. Thank you. Yes, we were talking about Hajj, right? And this is good because the days of Hajj are coming soon, within a few weeks. So it's good that we cover this chapter, that we will be able to understand what's going on. All right, so we talked about Hajj as being one of the 5 pillars. Now I'm going to ask Sister Diana, the new Sister Diana, other Diana,
New Diana, not the old Diana.
for all the 5 pillars, please. You should have it memorized by now.
I should, taking a shahada,
Taking Shahada.
praying salat,
Salat, good.
um, fasting.
No cheating.
Fasting during Ramadan.
Fasting the month of Ramadan.
I know it has to do with donating money. I just can't remember the name.
Okay, zakat.
Zakat
Okay, good, you're good.
and making hajj.
And making Hajj. Okay, so these are the 5 pillars. MashaAllah, we're there. Excellent.
Great. Thank you.
MashaAllah. Okay, so these are the 5 pillars, the 5 main acts of worship. Without them, our religion falls apart. They're obligatory on every Muslim. Obviously, there's some exceptions to each one. Well, not every single one, but to, there are some exceptions, but in general, these are obligatory on every Muslim. And we talked about Hajj and Umrah. We'll talk about Umrah actually. Hajj is the obligatory pilgrimage. It is only performed in the month of Zulhijjah in the days of Hajj, and there's certain rites and rituals that must be performed. Some of them must be performed. Some of them are recommended to be performed, but these are the rites and rituals of Hajj. And we didn't get into the specific details. That's more applicable if somebody is going for Hajj, then we can review that. But just this is kind of an overview of what Hajj is. We talked about there's 2 conditions if you're physically and financially able to perform Hajj. If you're physically able to go, then great. If not, and you have the finances to do so, then you can send somebody on your behalf. If somebody is that sick and they have no hope for recovery, for example, they're at a certain old age or they have certain chronic illness that they have no hope for recovery, then they can send somebody else. Yes.
Quick question. If they send someone else, does someone else get credit for Hajj as well?
No. So that person who they send, who is the delegate, must have performed their own obligatory Hajj first.
Oh, okay.
And then they can perform Hajj for somebody else. That's a good question.
But
So
you can make Umrah for someone else.
yes, yeah, you can make Umrah. Umrah, again, so it's not obligatory. But as for Hajj, it has to be somebody who has already performed their obligation, then they can go for somebody else. And this is, again, why it's important to try to make Hajj when we're young and healthy and not delay it too much, because it's physically demanding, and people who cannot, maybe they're weaker or older, it becomes a issue for them because they cannot perform all the rites and rituals by themselves, and then and nobody knows if you're going to live until next year anyways. So we should all strive to do this as soon as possible. And we kind of had an idea that we should start saving money every month, putting aside some money so that you have like a Hajj fund and you save up, and then you're able to go, because it's hard to come across $12,000 just sitting there. Hey, I have an extra $12,000 in the account, we need to go. That might not be as easy, but if you start saving up for it, it may be a goal that you can achieve. If somebody is not financially able to, they don't have the funds for it, then it's not obligatory on them yet. But as soon as they are able to financially, then it becomes obligatory. And if they die without doing it, then they have died without fulfilling their obligation. Okay.
What about intention?
As far as
Hajj, I was told that, well, for example, when COVID hit, I had put my deposit to go to Hajj. I don't know if I was going to be able to come up with the rest of the money or not, but I was dead set on going to Hajj. I was doing everything I could to go to Hajj, and then Hajj was canceled completely.
Right.
Do I get credit for Hajj because I had a very strong intention to go?
So if you come up with the money again, you should perform Hajj.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I
But
really
if
wanted
it's-
to make Hajj. but
right.
I just wondered if
But
that counts.
Allah
as a
subhanahu wa ta'ala
Hajj
knows your
policy.
situation better than even we do, right? Even we know our own situations. And if he didn't make the financial means for you to go and you had intention to go and you were sincere with that, then he'll bless you for it. But as soon as somebody can, then they should go, inshallah. May Allah
Yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the means to be able to go, inshallah, sister.
Amen.
Okay. So now on page 165, we're talking about Umrah. Umrah is the minor pilgrimage. So Hajj is the obligatory pilgrimage. It's obligatory on us once in a lifetime. Umrah is the minor pilgrimage. It can be done at any time, except for in the days of Hajj.
So it's the same thing, just different times.
It's not necessarily the same thing. The Hajj has more rites and rituals that need to be performed. Umrah is a smaller and minor pilgrimage. So, for example, in Umrah, all you would do is when you get there, you put on your ihram. You have intention for Umrah. You go, you make tawaf, means going around the Kaaba 7 times, and then you go between the 2 mountains 7 times, and then you can cut your hair if you like. Oh, you cut your hair, some part of it, or shave it, and then your Umrah is done. That's it. Whereas in Hajj, along with making tawaf, you have to make a sacrifice an animal. You have to stay at Arafah, which is a place. Arafah is the name of a place. You have to stay there. There's other rites as far as like stoning the pillars at Mina. So there's other rites and rituals in Hajj. It's over a number of days. So that's the difference.
How long do these normally last?
Umrah, Hajj starts on the 8th and ends on like the 12th or 13th. So like 4 or 5 days.
12 days.
2 hours.
Umrah, yeah, if it's not crowded, you can do it into like 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
What?
It's if it's not crowded, you could probably make the tawaf around the Kaaba in half an hour. It's not the distance isn't that much. It's just the crowd.
But it's often very crowded and it takes longer than that.
Yeah, but if you get it there on a day like, if you're brave, you go in the middle of the day when it's super hot, and then you can make tawaf very easily. But if it's crowded, you could be there for hours. But the actual distance isn't that much.
12 grand for 3 days? It's crazy.
12 grand. No, but if you get a Hajj package, it's usually for 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So they get you there a few days earlier, then they take you all to Medina. So you're there usually they're around 2 weeks. Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's great.
Okay. So Umrah, why don't we read page 165? Who would like to read in a loud voice?
I'm sorry. Umrah, or the minor pilgrimage. Hajj is the major pilgrimage. So Umrah is an act of worship which consists of ritual practices that are confined to the sacred mosque area only, namely entering the sacred state of purity, which is wearing the ihram, walking 7 times around the Kaaba, counterclockwise, by the way, and walking 7 times between the hills of Safa and Marwa, and then having one's head shaved off or one's hair cut short. The Islamic ruling regarding Umrah. It's obligatory for those who can afford it. Oh, that should be Hajj. Obligatory Hajj, right? Obligatory for those who can afford it once in a lifetime. Recommended to perform it again and again.
Okay, so according to some of the jurists, Umrah is also obligatory. But when you go and make Hajj, have you made Hajj?
Yeah.
So when we make Hajj, we make Umrah first,
Yeah.
and then we make Hajj, right?
Mhm.
So we've done both.
Right.
So there's different types of Hajj. I'm not going to get into the very specifics of it, but when we go from here, from America, we make what's called Hajj Tamattu, which Hajj Tamattu means that you make Umrah first, the minor pilgrimage, and then you make Hajj. So that's why you're there for a few days. You get there a few days earlier, you make the Umrah first, you take off your ihram, you're there in Makkah normally, and then you put on the ihram on the 8th of Zulhijjah to make Hajj. So, but again, according to some of the jurists, Umrah also is obligatory once in your lifetime.
It's time. It may be undertaken anytime throughout the year, but performing it during the month of Ramadan has a special merit, as the Prophet states. Performing Umrah during the month of Ramadan is equal to performing Hajj, the pilgrimage, in merit and excellence. And we went for our first trip, we went for Umrah in 1995, and it just happened to be during Ramadan. So we didn't plan it so that we would get that blessing.
Hmm.
But alhamdulillah, we were there during Ramadan, and it was our Umrah, and
Mashallah.
it
Yeah,
just turned
mashallah.
out to be.
Mashallah. So Umrah can be performed anytime during the year. You don't have, there's no specific time. Again, it's a shorter pilgrimage. There's less rites and rituals. There's no sacrifice or anything that's associated with it. Some questions from online. Okay, mashallah, those are the 5 pillars. Excellent. If someone starts a Hajj fund and after a year, is that amount considered for zakat as well? Yes. Yes. Anytime you're saving something that's over the amount that's necessary for zakat, then you still have to pay zakat on it. How is Hajj different from men and women? It's not. Hajj is the same for men and women. The only differences are in what they have to wear. Men wear 2 white sheets. Women are allowed to wear whatever they like, as long as it's not really flashy. And I think there's some restriction on the shoes that they wear, I believe. I'm not sure 100%. But as far as the rites and rituals of Hajj, they're not different for men and women.
We don't have to shave our heads.
The women don't have to shave their heads. They do.
Just nip a
They
little
do.
bit.
Yeah, they do cut a little bit off of their hair. They cut a little bit from their hair, but they don't have to shave their heads, of course.
And I would personally recommend, if you have the opportunity, do Umrah first, and then later on do Hajj. I mean, financially, if you can only do one, just go ahead and do the Hajj. But if you can and you think you can make it, my Umrah, the first one, was like a practice for the Hajj, because I didn't.
You don't know what to expect until
I
you're
didn't know
there.
what to expect.
So making Umrah first will give you kind of like the lay of the land. Okay, this is what's going on. You'll be able to adjust your expectations. But Hajj itself is it's a different thing because there's so many people. There are like 3+ million people making pilgrimage all at one time. So it's a challenge. And it's a test of our patience. It's a really a big test of patience. Okay, any more questions on Hajj and Umrah before we move to Eid al-Adha? All right. Eid al-Adha, Eid, the festival of sacrifice. So we mentioned at the end of Ramadan, there's 2 Eids, right? 2 festivals. Eid al-Fitr, which is right after Ramadan, and Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is celebrated in the days of Hajj. And it is to celebrate and commemorate the sacrifice that Prophet Abraham made. And then this is why we also make a sacrifice. So let's start reading page 166. Who would like to read?
The festival of sacrifice, Eid al-Adha, which is celebrated on the 10th day of the lunar month of Dhul Hijjah, the 12th month of the Islamic calendar, has numerous merits. The following. Number 1 is the one of the best days of the year, being amongst the first 10 days of the lunar month of Dhul Hijjah, as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said. There are no days in which good deeds are dearer to Allah than these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. His companions inquired, not even jihad in the way of Allah? He replied, not even jihad in the way of Allah, except for someone who goes out for jihad, sacrificing both his life and property, and returns with neither of them.
So-
Number 2,
So the first thing we have to remember is the month of Dhul Hijjah, the month of Hajj, the first 10 days. So Eid al-Adha is celebrated on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah. So the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, from the 1st to the 10th, these are considered the best days of the years to do good deeds. So often people will fast the first 9 days because you don't fast on Eid. They'll often first fast the first 9 days, or they'll try to increase their good deeds by giving charity, making extra prayers, doing whatever you can to benefit from these blessed days. So the weight of the good deeds we do is multiplied during those days, as the narration that we just read said or implied. Um, Also, okay, we'll get into. Also, people fast the ninth of Zulhijjah because there's a hadith. The ninth of Zulhijjah is the day before Eid, and there's a hadith that says whoever fasts the ninth of Zulhijjah, the day of Arafah, it's expiation for their sins of 2 years. The prior year and the year that's coming. It's the expiation of your minor sins, the sins that we often forget about. This fast, if it's accepted, expiates or cleans out those other sins. So we should strive to do that. Yes, number 2.
Number 2, it's a day of the greater pilgrimage in which the greatest Hajj rites are carried out. The foremost and most exalted of which are walking around the Kaaba, tawaf, slaughtering sacrificial animals, and throwing pebbles at the largest pillar in Mina, known as Jamrat ul Aqaba.
Mm-hmm.
What should be done on Eid day? On this day, a Muslim who is not performing Hajj engages in the same activities he normally does on the festival of fast breaking, Eid al-Fitr, with the exception of paying zakat al-Fitr, which applies only to Eid al-Fitr. A distinctive feature of Eid al-Adha is the slaughtering of a sacrificial animal, which is considered to be a highly recommended act of worship. Udhaya, or sacrificial animal, refers to any of the pastoral animals, sheep, cows, or camels, that are slaughtered during the festival of sacrifice, Eid al-Adha, with the intention of seeking closeness to Allah. The time for offering a sacrifice begins after the Eid al-Adha prayer and lasts until the sunset of the 13th day of Dhul Hijjah. As the Quran states, pray to your Lord and sacrifice to him alone. Prayer mentioned here has been interpreted to mean Eid al-Adha prayer, and sacrifice has been interpreted to refer to udhaya, or the sacrificial animal. Islamic ruling regarding udhaya, slaughtering a sacrificial animal during the festival of sacrifice, Eid al-Adha, is the practice which the Prophet ﷺ regularly did and encouraged sunnah mu'akkada for those who can afford to do so. The head of the household may also offer a sacrifice for himself on behalf of his dependents. A Muslim who intends to offer a sacrifice must refrain from cutting his hair, clipping his nails, or picking his skin from the first day of Dhul Hijjah until he slaughters the sacrificial animal on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah.
All right. So Eid al-Adha is the festival of sacrifice, and we should strive to sacrifice an animal on Eid al-Adha or the days afterwards. According to the author, he says it's Sunnat al-Muqtada, that it's an emphasized sunnah. Some jurists and scholars point to it as being wajib, obligatory, because of the hadith where Rasulullah ﷺ said that if somebody can offer a sacrifice and does not do so, he has no need to come to our Eid prayer. So it's something that we should do. We should make attempt to do it and start planning for it. Here, there's a number of farms, and you'll see the flyers start coming out in a couple of weeks. There's a number of farms where you can purchase an animal, have somebody do it for you if you like, or you can go and do it yourself with a knife. And obviously, the more you do, if you go and do it yourself, the better it is. But we should still do it, and even if you feel that it's expensive, you may want to delegate it to be done overseas. It's a little cheaper, but at least do the sacrifice. There's a number of narrations about it that the blood of the sacrificial animals. For each drop of blood, your sins are forgiven, and it's very, there's a lot of reward in it. So when you sacrifice the animal, you get the meat. You can eat out of it. You can give to the needy. You can, share with your family, and all of that is permissible. Question.
How does, for women who are not married,
Mhm.
how do, like, we don't sacrifice, do we?
What do you mean? You can still. So there's a number of things you could go and sacrifice an animal by yourself. Go to the farm, take a knife and sacrifice it, if you can. Okay. If not, Hafsa could probably do it for you. If not, then you can have the people at the farm do it, and then they'll give you the meat that you can distribute. So you can delegate it as well.
The people on the farm, are they Muslim?
Yeah, the ones you'll see all these flyers come around, all the different halal stores they have. You can sign up there, and they'll sacrifice the animal for you, and they'll give you the meat in a box.
So they'll break it down to like.
Yeah, you'll get meat out of it.
Like
So,
ground beef,
yeah, yeah. Well, it also all depends on where you get it done too. If you get it done, sometimes it's just cubes.
like
Yeah, and
You sacrifice yourself.
the more you do, the more you strive in the path of Allah, the better it is. So the best thing to do is yourself by hand.
It has to be a big
I
animal,
would have
it
to.
can't be like a chicken.
Some people
No,
consider chickens.
so we're gonna get into the no. You can't do a chicken.
Bro, you
so-
gonna kill a whole cow, bro?
Okay, so we'll get into. Okay, so the animals that are permissible for sacrifice are a sheep or a goat. All right, so that's one sacrifice. A sheep or a goat, it counts as one sacrifice. In a cow, 7 people can share in that, right? I mean, one person can do the whole cow if they want, but up to 7 people can share in it.
Wait, meaning 7 people cutting on it?
No. 7 people's shares are in that cow.
Like pay for it.
So like
You slaughter
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people put their money together. They buy a cow. It's sacrificed, so it's sufficing for all of your families. You only need the head of household needs to sacrifice once for their whole family. It doesn't have to be for every single person. Again, if you want to do more, you can, but the sacrifices that is recommended or for us to do is at least one.
What if your family's not Muslim? You just
Then that's
Just the Muslim.
just the Muslim. Yeah, obviously, any good deed we do is only for after we accept Islam, right? So, and a camel. Camels can also be sacrificed, and that's also 7 shares in a camel.
what if a person is needy and can't really afford that, because it's $150?
More. If they can't afford it, then it's not upon them. Then we should be giving them meat. But if somebody really can't afford it, then then they're not obligated to do so. But
So you can sacrifice a goat and then just take it home and eat.
yes, you can eat all of it. It's recommended for you to share with the poor and with other people, but you don't have to. And if you're gonna eat it, then I'll help you do the sacrifice. I'll do the sacrifice for you if you're gonna eat it.
Nah, I'm-
But even if you're vegan, you can do the sacrifice and give it to other people. You'll still get the reward for it. There you go. You get more reward. MashaAllah.
You have to give it to Muslims or non-Muslims or
No, you can give it to anybody. I mean, you'll get more reward for giving to Muslims, right? Because not only the reward for giving to the poor, but also the reward for brotherhood. But if you see other people who need it and you want to give to them, that's fine. Just make sure they know you're Muslim and why you're giving it, so that becomes an opportunity for that one. Any questions online?
When are we gonna get the flyers?
Yeah, they'll probably be around. You'll see them in the masjids, and I'll post some of them in the groups as well. If anybody wants to join me, once I decide where I'm going to do the sacrifice, I'll let you guys know. We can all go together.
doing it here.
Yeah, I always do it by hand, inshallah. Yeah, all my kids, you'll see them all covered in blood.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, Abdullah gets in there too. Her too.
Oh, yesterday I got my.
She's like up front taking the video.
Oh yeah, I've been going to over 6
Yeah, she's not scared.
That's savage.
all over.
And I have one T-shirt that I wear every year. And like can you get blood on it, so you're not gonna wear something nice at that point. But
Australia.
yeah, that was a mistake.
That was your fault.
What have you usually sacrificed?
Me, usually I've done goats. I've done lambs. I've done a cow. I've done cows.
He's tried to do sheep.
No, those weren't my sheep. The ones that ran away were not mine. I was just- But they weren't my sheep. I had already done my sacrifice. I was just part of the sheep.
We were coming home.
I was just part of the sheep hunting party.
Right.
And my role really wasn't even to hunt the sheep. I was just live blogging it all. I was just having fun with it. So we had some sheep that ran away last year. And it was a whole thing. Because they ran away from one of the masjids that was in a residential area. They ran across Hull Street. They were in people's so now we got a whole bunch of Virginian white people who have no idea what's going on. It's like, why are there sheep running around my yard? And posting is like, and it was just, it was wild. It was wild. It was in Magnolia Green, if you know the area. In Magnolia Green. Oh yeah. Like in the golf courses. The sheep were in the golf courses. Oh, it was wild. And there's woods all over the place. We were not gonna find
They
it.
sacrificed him at the night shit.
Yeah, some people sacrificed them otherwise.
How did you find it?
We don't have.
We didn't. No, they were gone.
Legend has them. Some of them might be still alive.
Yes, they probably went to some sanctuary or something. There's a lot-
I don't know. Somebody must have gotten them.
Yeah, there's a lot of big sanctuaries in here. I mean, there's a lot of sanctuaries.
Yeah, I think those water just ran away.
Yeah, one of them just jumped the fence one time and just.
Mexican.
All right, so we'll talk about
Right?
the
They're like, I got kids.
what types of animals need to be sacrificed and all these things next week, inshallah.
And
Subhanallah,
on that
bihamdi,
note,
subhanakallahumma
like,
wa bihamdika,
now
wa
it's we don't have to
sallallahu
get messy, so we go to Petra, so the grocery store on Archwell. So we go there, we order a goat or a lamb or a beef, a portion of beef, we sacrifice in my husband's name. And then they box it up, they pack it up, and we arrange to leave like a third of the box there. And we have a friend that we usually call and say, okay, there's.
Meat there.
for
Like a
you.
whole cow or?
So,
We share a cow,
Oh,
so
share a
we say
cow.
we want one
How much a
seventh
cow
of the cow.
costs?
so you get a share of a cow. So what she's saying is that some of the stores, like halal stores, like Jerusalem and Petra, you go there and you can just sign up and they'll sell you a share of a cow because 7 people can share in a cow. I think it's usually like what, like $200 or something like that. Something like that.
$1,400 for one cow.
Yeah.
I think it's
Ah.
more than that.
I don't know exactly. You'll see the prices.
Last year.
It's cheaper than, I'm not gonna North Carolina, it's definitely cheaper than that.
So
I'm gonna go to the farm.
So yes, but yeah, you can go to the halal store. They'll do the sacrifice for you, and then they'll give you a time of when to give it back. And actually, Sister Natalia was part of the sheep story because they were running around her yard. Because she lives in Magnolia, so they ran across the street and they were in her area, which was a whole ordeal. So, yes.
Is there a calendar I can get to see the different dates of the different?
I agree with that.
Yes, you can just download them from online.
No, I couldn't find a good one.
You couldn't find a good one? I'll post one.
But like, they-
We need some good Hijra calendars.
And stuff like that, yeah. Bro,
No, they want-
so much stuff going on.
They want the calendar. They want the actual thing.
Yeah.
Life something website thing, he always sends us one every year. So we
Oh
have that.
yeah. I have some at the office, probably. I'll get you one.
One at the office.
We do. I'll get it.
We use it, we don't use
Yeah,
it.
we don't use it. I mean, we can use them. Yeah.
ICBA usually has them.
Yeah, they sell them too. Here. All right. Are we?
Oh, I was gonna ask,
Yes.
the optional day of fasting before Eid al-Adha, is it 1 day or 2 days? Or am I getting confused with? and that-
You're talking about the 10th of Zulhijjah. You're talking the 10th of Muharram. That's 2 days. So the 9th of Zulhijjah is the only one that's mentioned out of the 10 days of Zulhijjah. But people will often fast more than that in the first 9 days. But the main one is the 9th of Zulhijjah, the day of Arafah. Anything else? Okay, so let's some announcements. Quran class here, 6 o'clock on Sundays. Please be on time. Yeah, and it's starting from the beginning.
It's really good.
He's teaching us how to pronounce the letters. It's a really good class. Thursday nights around 6:15, we are online for class. We're starting this same book. See, we're in the middle of it. We're starting it from the beginning. We had our first class yesterday. You can watch the class that was online. It's still on the YouTube channel, but please attend in person so that we can benefit from asking questions and stuff. Any other announcements? Dawa this week on Sunday, Monroe Park, 3:45. Whoever wants, we need volunteers. Please show up. What else? Do we have anything else besides that, Sister Natalia? Did I miss anything? No. Okay, that's all the announcements. All right. Jazakallah khair.